The following is a presentation of the Matt Talk Podcast Network.
You are now tuned into the PA Power Podcast, College Edition, featuring Mason Beckman and Tristan Warner. PA Power Wrestling. Pennsylvania is wrestling.
Welcome in, wrestling fans. You are now dialed into the PA Power College Podcast. As Jason Bryant of the Matt Talk Podcast Network said, I'm Tristan Warner, joined by my main man, Mason Beckman, a.k.a. Beck Diggity. Mason, after 5 or 6 microphone and speaker malfunctions, again, here we are.
Yeah, so you are the technology savant that I had always hoped you would be. But things are good, man. Rolling right on into another weekend. I got a fresh haircut this week, so I'm feeling good. A little extra confident for the podcast. Going to be a good time. We'll see how it goes.
So did I. So did I. We really should just turn this into a video Skype call so we can check out each other's haircuts. What a good time
that would be. We could add visuals. We could do that. We can make a YouTube channel happen.
Yeah, we'll do it next time.
So, well, right off the bat, actually, this works well to open this up for me personally because two of the guys that I am lucky enough to help coach down at the Quest School of Wrestling signed their national letters of intent. I mean, they committed and immediately signed their NLIs in the past few days. One of them, senior down at Waynesburg High School, he's the number 61 senior in Pennsylvania. Kyle Hammett, he's been to the state tournament at least once, I want to say twice. Great kid. He signed on to wrestle at Gardner-Webb. So, great school. Interesting
choice there, heading down south.
Yeah, it's a great school. And I know that he's excited about it. And he's been on the verge of making that decision for a little while now. So, was not a surprise.
Interesting choice. And also, I went down to Old Dominion, made a return this past weekend, and announced Old Dominion's match against Gardner-Webb, and they seem like they had a good coaching staff. I like their coach. Talked to him for a second, so that's a cool choice for.
Yeah, they still have Cody Walters down there.
Yep, he's down there, the Junkyard Dog.
So, what was he? 2-time All-American.
Yep, yes he was, freshman and senior.
The bookends, interesting. The Derek Zink path. So, yeah, there's a flash in the past for you. Not many people know that one. Oh, Upper Perk native.
Upper Perk Yeoman, yeah.
So, yeah, and I think that'll work well for Kyle. Him and Cody are very much of the same mindset, just tough, hardworking guys, scrap and try to find a way to win. So I think that'll be a good guy, good program, good fit for him. And then the other one, Logan Macri, who I want to say is the number 34 or maybe 24 senior in Pennsylvania. I don't have it right in front of me, but he's a state medalist from Cannon McMillan. Freshman, sophomore year, lost in the match to place at states. Last year got through with a 5th place finish. And, for a guy that took 5th, his losses were Klebov and Matty Parker. So, I remember sitting there with him afterward, a couple weeks after the season, talking to him about his state tournament. Not, like you said, not a whole lot of shame in that. But he's headed south too. He's headed to Tennessee Chattanooga to wrestle for Coach Esslinger, Coach Hoffman, Nick Bracetta. That's a program that's headed in the right direction, just full of good people. Can't say enough about how good of people are, surround and run the Tennessee Chattanooga program. Not to mention he gets to wrestle at home for the Southern Scuffle, so that's awesome. So I'm excited for both of those guys. I think they both made good decisions, and we'll be, excited to see how they finish out their high school careers and then roll on into college. So speaking of a guy that's just rolling into college right now, been a lot of talk, a lot of speculation about Spencer Lee and whether or not he's going to wear the Iowa singlet this year. And Iowa, for anybody that maybe doesn't keep up with it or just hasn't necessarily noticed, Iowa, the last Iowa true freshman to wrestle, to be in the lineup, to not redshirt right away, was Steve Mocco. And if memory serves, I want to say that was like the 01-02 era. So it's been a long time. Yeah, so I mean, he was an Olympian in 08. I want to say he graduated in like 06. And it felt like he was in college forever. So it was early 2000s. I mean, it's been 15 years since Iowa wrestled a true freshman, and Mako was nothing short of a freak. He's probably I guess now you've got Gable Stevenson, so there's an argument now. But prior to Gable, he was unquestionably the best high school heavyweight ever. And, so been a lot of speculation about whether or not Spencer will go at 25, especially because the gap between Spencer and their current starter at 125 is a big gap.
There's also a lot of talk about whether Spencer Lee, when will he be ready, coming off that torn ACL that everyone saw him wrestle with in the state finals, obviously, when he got upset by Austin DeSanto. So it's kind of, when is the timetable? When is he going to be ready to wrestle? And when is he going to be able to wrestle a D1 college Big Ten schedule too?
Yeah, so my guess would be, and I'm pretty sure that I saw or heard a soundbite or something like this. Somebody transcribed this from Iowa Media Day, but I think what they're going to do with him is keep him in red shirt and send him to, take him to Midlands with them, as Iowa always does. And that will kind of be the watermark. That'll kind of be what helps aid their decision. Which makes sense. You don't want to pull a guy unless you're absolutely sure, especially a talent like Spencer Lee. So it'll be interesting to see how that situation plays itself out.
Yeah, that's kind of one of the articles that's floating around the front page of Flow Wrestling right now. Or maybe it was Intermat actually, talking about who will be the guy to step up for Iowa this year. And who knows, if Spencer Lee's in the lineup, it could easily be him.
Yeah, I mean, if you talk about game changers, you know what you're getting out of Mikey Kemmer. You know what you're getting out of Brandon Sorensen. It would have to be a Spencer Lee. It would have to be a Caleb Young, or Sam Stoll, who's never been healthy for a postseason. Marinelli, as a redshirt freshman in the lineup. So, it would have to be one of those guys that you're not really 100% sure what you're getting. So, anyway, not to dwell out there in the Midwest for too long. So something that, Tristan, you and I, we talked about that we thought was a cool idea that we could do every week during the season is each of us names our outstanding wrestler of the week. So I'll give you the honors. You kick it off. Who's your OW of last weekend?
All right. Well, there was a couple hard choices here to make, and I spit this one off the top of my head whenever you asked me without even really considering. So not to say my answer maybe wouldn't change, but I'll let you take a couple of your other guys that you threw out. My initial thought was T-Shawn Campbell, the Pitt transfer going over across the border to Ohio State. We already knew how talented he was. We talked to Luke Pletcher 2 weeks ago, I think, and he talked about how this is a kid who has a tremendous amount of raw ability, but maybe didn't have the coaching or the technique necessarily to be the best guy in the country, maybe coming out of high school or even his first year of college. But he talked about how he has these training partners and this coaching staff at Ohio State that's the sky's the limit for him. And I think we saw that this past weekend. He beat Anthony Valencia, who, no, he did an All-American last year, but he was pretty darn close, and he's been a top 5, top 10 guy already in his redshirt freshman and now his redshirt sophomore year. And T-Shawn Campbell beat him by an astounding 14-0 major decision, nearly tech followed him and just dominated him. So that was the first person that came to mind for me. Not necessarily just because it was, a win over a highest quality opponent, but just the sheer domination and just the surprise factor.
Yeah, it's not necessarily a surprise that T-Shawn won that match, but I mean, he just beat the doors off of Valencia. Valencia might want to look into getting a little bit better on bottom. So.
And I had never envisioned T-Shawn Campbell being that good on top also. So that's that was even more, added more to the surprise factor.
Yeah, I've kind of seen that. I've gotten to see him in person in college a couple of times, living, last season when he was at Pitt, that's only about a 15, 20-minute drive for me. So I got to see him live a few times. And I even got to see him in the room a couple different times. It's kind of interesting. He's a super talented guy. And I mean, every time I've seen him in the practice room, the effort and everything is there. I don't mean this to sound wrong. But how sometimes you kind of get in a groove on your feet, or sometimes you just kind of, it sounds silly, but you just feel like wrestling on the mat. You kind of get into a groove and you're just feeling it that day. I've kind of seen him on the days where it's all catch and release. He doesn't even make an attempt to ride guys. And then I've also seen him performances like what you saw against Valencia, where he takes guys down and they never see the light of day again. It's just bang, 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 match over. So it's kind of interesting. I don't know if that's a feel thing for him, or if it's just a matter of, something he feels with a specific opponent, or if it's just, kind of what's working for him that day,
Yeah, that sounds about right. I mean, it looks like his top was working against Valencia, that's for sure.
Yeah, so, I think that's an awesome pick. Great performance for Tashan for Ohio State. So mine, the guy I went for my outstanding wrestler of the week, and for me, this actually wasn't even all that close, was Josh Shields, who is actually our guest on this podcast. You'll hear from him a little bit later. Awesome kid, incredible interview. Stick around. If you can't stand listening to Tristan and I talk for that long, skip ahead to that interview because it's an awesome interview that you really are going to want to hear. But Josh Shields, it wins, what was it, the Michigan State Open last weekend with 2 ranked wins in that. Beat the number 12 and the number 19 guys last weekend. And then this weekend, just, because that wasn't enough, he beats 2 All-Americans. He beats Alec Pantaleo from Michigan, and he beats Micah Jordan from Ohio State. Shields is a guy that, look, we've always known he's really good. He was the number 9 seed at Nationals last year as a redshirt freshman. Made 2 state finals, won a state title in high school. He's always been really, really good. But he vaulted himself from the conversation of a fringe All-American, of a 8 to 12 range kind of guy. He vaulted himself from that conversation into the top 5 guy, wrestling on one of the center mats Friday night at Nationals, into that conversation. So, a huge weekend for Josh Shields. Frankly, great start to the season so far for Josh Shields. He's got 4 top 20 wins, 2 wins over All-Americans, so not half bad. And then the other guy that, I think you would agree that this third guy, he merits mentioning for the weekend he had, right?
Scotty Parker, Lehigh. Yep. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Get your Lehigh in.
So
well deserved.
Yeah. So Scotty had a great day had a great weekend. Had a dominating win against Bucknell, and then at the Journeymen Collegiate Classic was 3-0 with all three wins coming over top 20 guys. Beat Josh Terrell, beat Dennis Gustafson from Virginia Tech, and then he beat Cade Brock in a really wacky match. Scotty pulled off a 6-point move in the last 10 seconds to win that match. But so awesome weekend for Scotty Parker, and actually crazy statistic about Scotty, as an All-American, has had a great career so far. He's qualified for the national tournament both times. That win against Brock is his first win against an All-American.
That is a crazy statistic. What did he place last year? 8th?
Yeah. So the thing with, Scotty, there's obviously absolutely zero question that, he's the number 3 guy in the country right now. He's absolutely that good. He was always the guy,
He was just on the fringe, seems like.
That was always in these wild matches, like last year in the round of 16 against Zane Richards. Loses on the...
That was something like 9-8 too, if I remember right.
Yeah,
I was sitting with Jeff Upson. I was sitting with him watching on Media Row. Nosebleeds, yep.
In overtime, loses on a step-out stall.
Yep.
You know what I mean? So it's always these insane matches, and it's awesome to see Scotty, and because all 3 of those matches he wrestled Sunday were tight matches. really putting things together, winning those high-level matches, gets a great win over Cade Brock in a match that I know he was excited to wrestle because, for a lot of reasons, but the last time him and Brock wrestled was in the Scuffle Finals last year, which was a tie match with a minute to go, and Scotty, hurts his knee, or maybe it was his ankle, but he gets hurt and had a default. So it was good to see him, able to not only wrestle that match, but to win it. So that's awesome. And obviously for me, that's, thank goodness Lehigh finally has a 133 that is worth something.
That actually competes hard and has more than a dump and a tight waist tilt.
Yeah, thank
Cross
goodness.
wrist tilt. Yeah.
Seriously, thank goodness.
Jeez, it's been a long time, so it's good to see.
Yeah, the kid that had there before was a nightmare. So
yeah, Scotty wins his wrestle offs too, if I remember correctly. So
he does. Unlike the other guy,
the guy we shall not name.
Yeah,
the guy who's just a podcaster at this point,
amongst other things.
Let's look to recap. We're kind of late in the week here, Mason. We're almost getting ready to start up the Friday, Saturday, Sunday swing of this week's dual meets, but we had a lot of dual meet results to recap from last weekend. Like I said, it's kind of in the past now, but maybe just go through some quick headlines or maybe some big matches that happened this past weekend.
All right, so quick hits. Penn State over Army and Bucknell only lost a total of 3 bouts. Jason Nolf is a wizard. By the way, the new scrambling rules. Did you see what Nolf pulled off against Army?
No. Please explain.
So, you know how when a guy goes single leg, like head inside, sweep single, and comes out the back door, and you can kind of leg whip a guy, and they'll kind of hit flat on their back, but they come through it.
Yeah.
So Nolf, the kid from Army shoots and pops out the back door, and Nolf leg whips him. But, under the old rules, before these current scrambling rules, it doesn't really matter if that kid hits on his back or anything. You know what I mean? Nolf would have to clear his foot and completely wrestle through the whole situation, right? Under the new rules, with the way the count starts, Nolf leg whips him and immediately hooks his feet together, grabs a hold of the near foot and just sits there and waits for the count to go, gets 2 and 4 backs out of it. He did it to the kid twice, and he actually worked his way into pinning him out of the second one. But it was so cool to see, and that was one of the things I was so excited about with these new scramble rules, is to see a guy like Nolf that's so creative and flows so well in the scrambles, and his body awareness is so good. To see a guy like that and how they adapted to the new rules and made them work for them. So I thought that was awesome. It was really cool to see.
And a guy like Nolf, that's not something that just happened out there. Like he probably spent hours in the wrestling room just trying to adapt the new rules to his style and to his whole play wrestling scheme. So that is cool.
Yeah, and you could see even the first time he did it, when I was watching it live, he leg whipped him and it was plain as day. He leg whips him, hooks his feet, hooks that kid's foot, and just, you could tell it wasn't like it wasn't like a light bulb went off in his head like, oh man, I should stay here. He knew exactly what he was trying to do. So that was really cool. Shows not just Pennsylvania wrestling fans, but wrestling fans in general. I really, truly hope everybody understands how special, what that kid does is. As far as how creative and free-flowing he is. The way he can kind of really make things up and has the ability to make stuff like that happen, that's a really special thing. So, you really hope people appreciate what they get to see as it develops. But that's really, I don't mean to just gloss over it, but that's really the only thing worth diving down into in the Army and Bucknell duels for Penn State. Well, actually, the only other thing would be Kassar started at 97 over McCutcheon both duels, went 1-1, beats the Army guy, loses to the Bucknell guy. I am biased here because I've known Matt McCutcheon for a long time. I don't think either one of those are matches that McCutcheon loses, so it'll be interesting to see how 97 plays out for Penn State going forward.
I agree with you. I mean, sometimes you have guys who have the other guy's number in the practice room. They might beat him in the wrestle off or have some kind of style matchup that gets him, but ultimately it comes down to who wins under the lights That's what my high school coach, who I now coach beside, always used to say. It always comes down to who performs better under the lights. And it sounds like, at least to me, I would think McCutcheon, what was he, 5 seed going into nationals last year, blood rounder maybe. Seems like so far at least he's the guy. Should be the guy at least.
No, I agree, and that's the type of thing that it'll sort itself out as the season rolls along. So, other results. So Lehigh won their season opening duel over Bucknell. Really, the main match in that dual meet was Luke Karam and Tyler Smith. Great match. If you can, I don't know if it's still online or not. If you get a chance, go back and check it out. Rewatch it. 5-3 Smith. Smitty got a takedown in the last, I think, 30 seconds to win it. But it was really, it was just a really well wrestled match by both guys. I think Karam showed that, against the number 10 guy in the country, an established guy, Karam showed that he's ready to really truly compete at a very high level as a redshirt freshman.
Up a weight class too. I mean, we saw him at 133 most of his redshirt year, so that he's proven he can wrestle at 41 against the big dogs.
Yeah, and one of the things that was wild to me is when it was Smith's choice, they went neutral. So Karam, who, if you haven't seen him wrestle, he's very similar to Randy Cruz, kind of the same type of build. Karam's probably, they both have their own nuances. I would say Karam better on his feet, not quite as much of a freak on top as Randy, but they're definitely both in freak territory on top. So it was interesting to see that it's already a known thing how good Luke is on top, that they weren't willing to go underneath of him. So, but yeah, that was really the only noteworthy individual result from that duel.
How about Drexel pulling off wins over SIU, Edwardsville, and Iowa State? That's probably the next duel we need to hit on.
Yeah, I agree. So great road trip. 2-0 road trip. That's always awesome. Anytime you're spend a few days sleeping in hotels and you come away with 2 wins and 2 matches, that's a great weekend for
Not
any
to
program.
mention, just to let the thought sink in, that Drexel beat Iowa State. Just let that sink for a second.
Yeah, man.
To your average person who is maybe not up to date on the current wrestling landscape, just to, but even who has a good idea of what college wrestling is like, to hear that Drexel beat Iowa State.
Yeah,
that's a head turner.
It's a head turner, and that's awesome for Drexel. Awesome.
That's awesome for PA Power.
Yeah, exactly. So that's freaking awesome.
Probably the biggest thing to mention about that, actually, not a good thing for PA Power, but DeSanto suffers his first college loss to Ian Parker, who's, I've heard a couple people say something to the effect of, who did DeSanto just lose to? But I kind of had to remind him, Ian Parker was a pretty highly touted recruit coming out of, I think, Davison, Michigan, a couple of years ago. He's a young guy, but he was really good coming out of high school. So maybe in his year or two of redshirting or whatever, being out of the spotlight, people might have forgot about him. But I know he's a talented kid, but I was a little surprised to see DeSanto lose that match.
Yeah, it was a wild match, man. Those two put on a show. And that's, again, another individual bout. If it's still posted online, if you can find it, go find it, check it out. Worth taking the time to go dig it up. So much fun. And Ian Parker, Davison, Michigan product, Davison, Michigan, also home to one of his coaches, Brent Metcalf, as well as a number of other high-level wrestlers.
Not to be too much of a downer so early, but not a very impressive opening dual meet for Iowa State under the new coaching staff, and even more so, not a very impressive starting lineup from what I can see.
Yeah,
a lot of obscure names I saw in that box score.
Yeah, my general thought is when a coaching staff comes in,
it's going to take a little time to get the guys they want on the team and in the lineup.
Yeah, so normally year 1, you don't have anybody that you recruited unless they transferred in. You don't have anybody that you recruited. Year 2, you start to get it. It's normally about maybe year 3, but really around years 4, 5-ish. If you have an administration that's willing to, buy in and not be gung-ho about, nonsensically gung-ho about, you got to win right now. Like, no, you got to understand this takes time. You got to change culture. So, I agree. Not Obviously not the start that Iowa State the new staff wanted to have at Iowa State, but hey, I mean, PA Power, man, it happens. What do you do? Drexel's getting better. Shout out Coach Matt Azevedo.
Yep. Looking back at a couple other results, you want to pick out maybe a couple big things we saw. That we had the Journeyman duels and the Journeyman individual tournament. And then we also had the Eastern Michigan Open and the Binghamton Open. There's a couple PA Power guys to highlight in these, so maybe just run through. And we had the East Stroudsburg Open too, so
all right,
run through and pick out a couple highlights.
So quick hits. Here we go. Journeyman Classic. We already talked about Scotty Parker. Other guys to come home undefeated. So if you don't know how the Journeyman Fall Classic works, guys get separated in different pools at weights. There's a number of different pools. I forget how many. I think 3 at each weight. So it's on a bracket. You do a round robin. So you wrestle 3 or 4 matches. So there's not necessarily a technical champ. You just talk about guys who went undefeated. So we talked about Scotty Parker. Jordan Cutler goes undefeated for Lehigh with a win over Jacoby Smith out of Oklahoma State in his last match. Arguably the premier matchup of the day. Probably not the premier matchup, but one of them. And when we talk about 2 Pennsylvania guys, it was the premier matchup. Ryan Price gets an overtime win over Zach Savatsky. Price showing that moving up to 184 has not been a problem, which if you've ever seen the kid in the weight room is not surprising. He's a freak of nature. Ian Brown over Alex Clucker, 11-10. Ridiculous match. Both guys were almost pinned at multiple points. You ever see the Domino's commercial where the guy goes in and takes off his shirt and yells, "There's no rules"? That was pretty much that match. It was a complete train wreck.
Alex Clucker has been the shock of the college wrestling season for me so far. I don't know about you.
Kid is scrapping.
Yeah.
Love it. Coach Scotty Moore out there. Coach him up. Speaking of Scott Moore, 2 of his guys went undefeated. Chance Marsteller, not a surprise, wins notably over Drew Longo and Cole Walter, both of Lehigh. Longo is a guy that's placed at the Scuffle once, maybe twice, and Cole Walter, national qualifier last year as a redshirt freshman. And then DJ Failman went undefeated at 133. So we had 2 PA Power guys, natives and wrestling for Pennsylvania schools, go undefeated at 33 with Failman and Scotty Parker. Real quick, other Pennsylvania guys to go undefeated. Andrew Dunn, Eric Hong, Noah Stewart. That's it. Andrew Dunn, Eric Hong, Noah Stewart. Then Jordan Wood won a rematch of his state finals with Thomas Haynes from years ago. Rolling on to the Eastern Michigan Open. Pitt had 4 champs. Mickey Philippi at 133 beat Corbin Myers in another state finals rematch from years ago.
That was a little surprising to me. I thought Corbin Myers now in his redshirt sophomore year, I want to say, was a 2-2 at nationals last year. Philippi struggled a little bit, it seemed like, when he was redshirting at Virginia last year, but I guess that shows he moved back to PA, got back in the pit room close to home, and he's firing on all cylinders again.
Yeah, which is awesome. I thought that was not a negative on Corbin Myers. That was a really positive sign for Mickey Philippi.
I agree, yeah, and that's a good thing for, both guys, tough PA kids, so both kids that we could see, competing deep into the tournament in March. Although it's Philippi redshirting.
Yeah, because Fories is going.
That's right, yep.
So then the other 3 guys that won championships for Pitt were Robert Lee at 49, Taylor Bramani at 57, and Ryan Solomon at heavyweight. Binghamton.
Binghamton, I was going to say, Jared Vercleren wins a title at 149. Those were some big brackets, by the way, that Binghamton Open. I think he had to wrestle like 6 or 7 matches. Pretty much dominated everybody except for, I think his finals win was 5-3, but pretty dominating performance for Vercleren in was that his college debut? Not sure if he wrestled in anything before that.
No, that was his college debut. So just way to come out of the gate strong.
Nick Lee for Penn State, who, as we talked about, looks like he put a beating on Jared Cortez in the wrestle off. Still going to get redshirted though, but he did lose 12-7 to I don't even know how you say this kid's name. Yanni Diakmahalis, something like that.
Yanni Diakmahalis. Yanni up there with the most highly touted, most anticipated freshman in this year's class up at Cornell. I think that is going to be one of those losses that when we wrap around to March, where Yanni
it's not going to look so bad.
Exactly. And I don't think it looks bad right now.
It doesn't even look bad, no.
It doesn't look bad right now.
With how much hype that kid got coming out of high school, I mean, he might as well be the next Kyle Dake, so we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. So when we wrap around to March, and I think Yanni will be a top 10, top 8 caliber kid, I think you're going to look back at that loss and go, oh, okay, fair enough. Justin Stoudemire was a runner-up. He lost to Marcus Scheidel, who, by the way, Scheidel feels like he's been around forever.
I was just going to say that. When I was a redshirt junior at NCAAs, he was in my bracket. I guess he was a true freshman, but it felt like he was older. So now, geez, that's been like 4 years. It just seems like, yeah, the kid's been around forever, especially at an Ivy League school where you can't redshirt.
Yeah, well, I mean, you can do the whole defer a year thing, but that's neither here nor there.
You're used to those guys going 4 years and out. So, yeah, he seems like he's just been around forever.
Yeah, and then Frank Mattias out of Penn wins 197 pounds with a win over Ben Darmstadt of Cornell. So that's a good win for Mattias.
East Stroudsburg Open, last one. Matty Parker wins 125 for Lehigh. So an overall good weekend for the Parkers, I would say.
Let's go. Undefeated weekend for the Parker family. Brandon Peitzel, he is a transfer out of Rutgers, now at Lehigh, wins 33. Jimmy Hoffman, also Lehigh guy, wins 141. Ryan Kemmer sighting.
How about the Ryan Kemmer sighting?
What?
Older than me. A year older than me.
From the cloud, just poof, dropped. Like, go wrestle, Ryan. What?
And just go win the title at age 27 probably by now.
Absolutely absurd. I was scrolling through brackets and results. It was like, there is no way that I just saw what I think I saw. And, yeah,
One of the most talented kids around my area. I lived in the Philly area growing up, and he was one of the best kids around that area. You know, he'd always go like toe-to-toe with the Altons, and then even in high school, you know, he didn't quite have the high school career that his brother did, but he was always like I think he ended up getting on the state podium at least once, maybe not, but I mean, he had some issues, I'm sure, off the mat maybe, but he was a talented kid nonetheless. And then I don't know if he ever ended up wrestling in college or not, but he's one of those guys that you'll always remember as being like one of the best kid wrestlers, you know, and here he is still wrestling at age 27 or 26, and he's winning the ESU Open.
Good to see. Sure. For
still
sure.
Repping PA power.
Yeah.
Dusting off the old shoes.
Yeah, you're not kidding. So he was always super talented. I'm with you. I think he took like a 7th 1 year at PIAAs. As far as I think he got overshadowed a lot by his older brother, Zach, who, I mean, Zach won 2 state titles, was the number 1 kid in the country coming out of high school.
He also tech-falled me.
He set the Pennsylvania State record for career wins, which I am salty about because he's 3 ahead of me. He is the only person that has more than me. So, Zach, if you want to take 3 of those losses off your record, I'd be okay with it. Or 3 of those wins off your record, I'd be okay
with it. You can
with
feel free to take the one where he tech-falled me in the at the Giant Center.
All right.
We'll remove that one.
So we are 1 down. We can just say you didn't make weight for a weekend. Anyway, yeah, it's not a shame for Ryan to say he didn't have the high school career that his brother did, but I think that's one of the reasons he didn't get as much attention. As far as why the career maybe didn't play out, I don't have a clue, but you're not kidding. Super talented guy. So that was from the clouds, Ryan Kemmer sighting. Kyle Gentile, Lehigh guy, he wins 197, redshirt for the Mountain Hawks this year. And then Joey Goodart out of Drexel wins heavyweight.
Let's fast forward to what to watch this weekend now that we just breezed through a quick recap of what we saw last weekend. There's some good duels coming up. There's some good tournaments. Let's highlight some of the key, at least individual and team matchups that we'll see this weekend, beginning with, of course, the Lehigh Mountain Hawks, Mason, at home versus Edinboro in Michigan.
Well, we're actually not going to start there real quick. So we're recording this Thursday night. It's going to drop Friday. So it is penetrating your ears on a Friday, potentially after. I don't know what your schedule is, but Bloomsburg versus Indiana went down tonight, Thursday. So for you guys listening, it would be last night. Crazy back and forth dual meet. Indiana ends up getting a sudden victory win at heavyweight to win the dual meet by 19-18. So that's actually what kicks off this weekend of wrestling. Bloom's other competition this weekend will be Sunday at the West Point Invite. Wrapping back up to what you said, Tristan, Lehigh's got a huge weekend this weekend.
You made me look stupid, but it's all right. I'll forgive you. Go ahead.
Hey, for once I didn't start with Lehigh. Come on, man. I'm getting better.
I fed you Lehigh, and you still couldn't even take it.
Well, I mean,
this time it was all right. I fed it to you.
The Indiana Bloom thing was kind of like a weird – it was kind of a good segue between results and this weekend.
Fair enough. Go ahead. Lehigh, Edinboro, Michigan.
So Edinboro is ranked 24th in the country. Michigan is ranked 3rd. Lehigh is, depending on where you look, anywhere from like 7 or 8 to 10. So same ballpark. The Lehigh-Edinboro match on Friday, obviously full of PA power studs. We talk up and down both lineups. Michigan, not any PA guys, but studs nonetheless. So some of the matchups to watch in these two dual meets. Darian Cruz, Sean Russell, both All-Americans, right?
Yeah. National champ against, I want to say Russell was 5th or 6th last year.
Yep. So huge matchup there.
Maybe 7th.
Yeah, I mean, either way, at that point, yeah. So a huge matchup there. Two of the best guys in America. 33, Scotty Parker, got another big weekend coming up. Corbin Myers, who we've already talked about. And the number 2 ranked wrestler in the country, Stevan Micic. So Sunday, it'll be the number 2 and number 3 guys in the country going at it at 133. That'll be fun. 65, Austin Matthews. I talked to him a couple days ago. He's cleared. It is 100% for sure. He's going to make a season debut Sunday in the Snake Pit. So him and the guy at 165 right now for Lehigh is Gordon Wolf. This match is going to be out of control.
Gordon Wolf is getting the starting nod over both Longo and Cole Walter.
Won the wrestle off.
Wow. Okay.
So
there you go. There you have it, folks.
Now, and that could change between last weekend and this weekend. It's going to be a 3-man carousel until one guy kind of separates. I just really hope it's Wolf, because if it is, this match is going to be a 7-minute disaster. Because both of them, look, they're both really good. They're both guys that have wrestled the national tournament. Wolf, if you remember a couple of years ago, was the one that upset Alex Meyer in the first round.
It was just last year.
2 years ago. It was in New York City, wasn't it? Yeah, it was in New York City.
Are you sure?
Positive. Because,
okay.
Yeah,
all
yeah,
right.
Positive. So if that match happens, look, whoever is at 165 for Lehigh against Edinboro, it's going to be a great match with Austin. But Wolf and Matthews, it'll be 2 dudes in a clothes dryer, 2 cats at...
You're right, because Price was at 74 last year for Lehigh.
Yes, correct.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I just going on. I can't even contain the excitement. The next match, Jordan Cutler against Miles Amin for Michigan. What is that, that's a top 5. That's got to be a top 5 matchup or close to it.
I think it's
174.
4 and 6. I think Amin's 4 and Cutler's 6.
Either way, both of these guys are, I would say they're almost under the radar just because of how good the top 3 guys at that weight are, but both of those guys are incredibly good. Like, if there's not a Zahid, Mark Hall, Bo Jordan 1, 2, 3 right there, Amin and Cutler are good enough to be 1 and 2 at some other weights. You know what I'm trying to say?
Completely agree. And I do. I know I've talked about him before. I think Cutler, I realize he's the number 6 guy in America, and I know that I'm biased. I freely admit that. I think Cutler's going to surprise people, but that's a separate thing. This matchup is going to be awesome. And you mentioned Zahid, by the way, side note. How about him beating the number 1, 2, and 3 guys in the country? Or no, 1, 2, and 4, or 1, 3, and 4, that's what it is. So Zahid...
Not to mention he beat Bo Jordan 9-4, was it? It wasn't even close.
Beat the door...
It was almost like he was avenging the loss that his brother just took the match before and just went out there and beat the brakes off Bo Jordan, which I've never seen happen before.
No, so that was not a bad start to the season for Zahid. Moving up a weight, Ryan Price and Dom Abinator. That's going to be another awesome match in the Lehigh-Michigan duel. So excited for that one. And then at heavyweight, Jordan Woods got a big weekend. Miller from Edinboro, and then the man, the myth, the legend, the literal rocket scientist that is Adam Kuhn from Michigan.
Did you forget Miller's first name? Is that why you just called him Miller?
No.
Billy, right?
Yeah, it's Billy. He's
okay, just making sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's roommates with Austin Matthews. Not that matters, but
okay.
I see that via the chat snap.
Looks okay. What else we got? Pitt road trip. They got Wisconsin and Cal State Bakersfield Friday in Bakersfield, and then they head to Arizona State Sunday. So that's a nice little swing there. 3 dual meets over the weekend. Some good matchups coming up in that one too.
Yeah, for sure. So one that you will hear Josh Shields talk about, Shields and Romani in the Pitt duel. Romani's the one that ended Shields' season last year. So that, again, you'll hear Shields talk about it a little bit. Oh, yeah, that's got a lot added to it. And any wrestler at any age who, when you get a chance to, especially early the next season, to wrestle the guy that ended your season last year, especially when it's one you kind of felt like you let slip away, there's going to be a lot more to that one. Heavyweight in that duel between Pitt and Arizona State, Ryan Solomon, Tanner Hall. That'll be a big matchup for Solomon. They're both, I believe, top 10 guys. Hall, like the 4, and Solomon's 9 or 10. So that'll be a great matchup there. Great dual meet across the board. Keystone Classic.
I was just gonna say, let's do the Clarion, and then we'll get to the Keystone Classic. That's the last big thing we want to talk about. Clarion's at the NC State Open, where you have here highlighted. Good point. Brock Zackrell, Kevin Jack. Could we see it? Will Kevin Jack actually wrestle in the NC State Open? I know sometimes the studs don't go to those. Although NC State usually is good about sending their big guns even to their own Open.
Well, let me do some Googling here and see if it's on their actually on their schedule. Because if it's on their schedule, they'll send the starters. But yeah, if that matchup happens, that'll be awesome. That'll be a great match for Brock. No matter how, results aside, it'll be a great match for him to have. Yeah, so the Wolfpack Open is on their schedule.
I would think, NC State does usually send, we always wrestled in that at ODU, and NC State would wrestle their starters at that Open. So I expect to see Jack there. I just didn't know Clarion ever went there before, so that's a new thing.
Yeah, well, if you would have had the time to hop on the old Brock Zackrell call, you would have heard us discuss this.
It's a busy life out here, Mason. I don't know how you do it. You just do it all. I'm just one man.
I am a high energy human. I don't need much sleep. I drink a lot of caffeine. Probably taking years off my life, but yeah, I'm living my best life, so we're gonna roll on. Yeah, that'll be a fun match if it happens. They're both high octane guys. Zackrell's gonna shoot a lot. Jack's gonna scramble. Crazy things are gonna happen. It'll be a good time. Then, like you said, last but certainly not least, the Keystone Classic, the namesake of our state. In-state programs that are sending their squad, Penn, Drexel, and Penn State. This is held at Penn in the Palestra, the House of Wrestling. So, Penn, Drexel, Penn State will all be there. Tristan, run us through your favorite matchups. Potential matchups.
All right, well, here's some ones you have highlighted here. 149, obviously Zane's going to be there, and obviously Zane's going to win the tournament.
Yep.
He will be challenged by number 10 ranked redshirt freshman Ryan Deacon from Northwestern, who was kind of an under-the-radar guy coming out of high school, but had a crazy redshirt year and an even crazier spring, making the junior world team and beating a ton of really good guys that I bet nobody expected him to beat. And number 15, I think it's Matt Zavistowski from App State. And I will say, like I said, I announced ODU's 2 home matches last week, and they had a triple duel, whatever, a triangle with Gardner Webb and Northwestern. And I wasn't super impressed with Ryan Deacon. I saw him coming out on the mat, and he was probably no bias against my ODU squad. Obviously excited to watch them, but Deacon was probably the number 1 guy I was excited to watch wrestle. I'd never seen him in person, except maybe Midlands last year, but never since he's been this heralded, and wasn't super impressed by him, but I am kind of excited to see how he'll if he'll go out there and try to give Zane all he can handle.
Yeah, and hey, look, as far as guys you're not super impressed by, I was 100% one of those people that if you watched, it was not impressive. It was just like a broken record because a lot of the same things happened. But I did a lot of winning, man. So who knows? Maybe Deacon is.
Oh, you're right. No, not taking anything away from him. I just
no.
I was expecting a little more points on the scoreboard, I guess maybe. But no, like you said, I mean, he could go out and get pinned by Zane in 30 seconds, and that's still not going to mean he's not a good wrestler.
No,
and he's not
I mean,
impressive.
Zane literally did that to Brandon Sorensen in the national finals.
Yeah, exactly. My point. I just want to see.
Semis.
I just want to see him. Just want to see that matchup. It could be interesting, I guess. Just to see, if he tries to throw the kitchen sink at him.
No, I completely agree.
Both of those guys have had good success already on the. They've both been on junior world teams. Is that right? Deacon was just on it this past year.
Deacon was for sure.
Yeah, I mean, and Zane's obviously been on it.
Oh,
before,
okay,
so.
Zane. I'm sorry.
Those are two high-level guys.
I thought you might have been talking about Zavostovsky. Okay, my bad. But Zane's a cadet world champ.
Yeah, okay.
And then was obviously on the senior level world team.
Let's move up 157. Obviously, Jason Nolf, once again, going to win the weight class. BJ Clagan from Ryder, who did just beat Pantaleo in the All-Star Classic. He's a guy we talked about last week who's kind of hot and cold, but he's obviously an All-American. He's had a really good career. He's always a gamer. It's kind of, you don't know which one of him is going to show up, but nonetheless, he's always good. And then May Bethea from Penn, who is, of course, the one that Nolf hit that crazy flip through double forward roll thing on I think it was the Keystone Classic finals last year.
And an incredible social media moment produced as a result of that.
165, the key match here. Vincenzo Joseph and Chad Walsh, those two are kind of on a collision course.
Oh,
and that
I hope it happens.
Be interesting, just because Chad Walsh, anytime he wrestles, it's exciting.
Yeah, and their matchup last year was absolutely insane. That was kind of Chenzo's first breaking onto the scene when Chad Walsh was returning national semifinalist, returning All-American. So huge win last year for Chenzo. I hope this match happens. Neither one of these guys is worried about giving up points. They're both just going to go let it rip. Going to be a ton of fun to watch if it happens. I really pray that it does. But funny little tidbit about Nolf and Chenzo and the whole roll through thing that Nolf did to May Bethea last year. On Twitter, after it happened, I think it was Flo, posted some little GIF or clip of the roll through. And Jody Stripmatter, who was, he's the Young Guns coach and coached both Nolf and Chenzo at different points, goes, "Oh, that's actually not the first time he's done it," and posted a link to a video of Nolf Nolf doing it to Chenzo. And what was so funny about it wasn't Stripmatter's clip. It was just, you saw Jody's clip and went, "Oh, no kidding, that's interesting." What was Chenzo's replying? Goes, "Oh, thanks, Jody."
Bringing back some bad memories there.
So anyway, the next weight up that really jumped out to me was 97 with McCutcheon, Kassar, and Mattias. All three really good guys, to be honest. The thing that I'm most interested to see is McCutcheon and Kassar, if it happens, and how that situation continues to evolve with who's the guy.
Not even just if those two wrestle each other, but even if, one of them loses to Mattias and then the other one beats him, it's like, once again, I go back to that point, who performs in the competition?
Oh, without question. You have to start the guy that's better in the singlet. Have to.
Exactly.
So, yeah, I think, events like this weekend, they add up, they go a long way. And then the big boys, heavyweight, one of this is probably my second favorite matchup of this tournament, and I think the deepest weight of the tournament. My favorite matchup of the tournament is Chenzo Chad Walsh, just because they both just let her fly. Second favorite matchup, potentially Nick Nevels and Jay Casper from Duke. Both All-Americans. They split their two matches at the NCAA tournament last year. Casper winning in the quarters, Nevels winning for fifth. So that'll be a great match if it happens, but not to leave out some other high-level guys. Number 10, Conan Jennings.
Yep, Northwestern.
Joey Goodart at number 16, and then the number 19 guy in the country, Hutchison. And he's from Eastern Michigan. So heavyweight is rolling 5 deep for ranked guys. They got a squad of ranked guys. 3 top 10 guys, 2 of whom are representing Pennsylvania schools, and Nevels and Goodart. That's probably the best bracket there, right?
At least the deepest, yeah. Most ranked guys, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, the hardest to win is 49 because of Zane, but one of the things that I'm interested to see in this tournament On a total non-wrestling note, BJ Clagan, while warming up for the All-Star Duel, had on capri-length sweats, appeared to be cutoff sweats. Interested to see if he rocks those again.
Fashion is always important in these wrestling tournaments.
And
as we
you know
talked
what?
about with Drew Foster and his Crocs and his Jeff Gordon t-shirt, those things are definitely important.
Yeah, and Foster did not rock either one of them. Lost to Pete Renda.
Direct correlation.
Probably direct correlation. I mean, I think Pete Renda gets the win anyway, but, maybe if Foster rocks the Crocs and the Jeff Gordon shirt, not by as many points. We don't know. I'm just, is what it is.
Joining us on the program now, all the way from Tempe, Arizona. He was a two-time state finalist and a state champ for the Franklin Regional High School. He's now a top 10 ranked 157-pounder for the Arizona State Sun Devils as a redshirt sophomore. Josh Shields, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, man, it's a pleasure to be here.
So, first of all, you got to start with it. You had an awesome opening weekend to second weekend to your season, right? You open your season a couple weekends ago with you go out and you win your open, and then this past weekend you beat two top 10 guys, two All-Americans. Give us your thoughts on these first couple weekends and how you've competed and kind of how you're feeling.
Mm-hmm. Well, I feel great. It was a great start to the season. When I first saw our schedule, I was like, man, that is a loaded schedule, and so I knew I had to be ready. But I trust my coaches. I trust everything that they're putting me through. So that's basically what I did. I saw it was a tough schedule, so I had to up the ante and just elevate my game. But I feel like the same person now that I did 2 weeks ago. I still feel good. I'm just really excited for what the season's about to bring. I think this is a good forecast of what's going to happen.
So in that match against Jordan on Sunday, you go out and he scores right away, and what was kind of going through your head? You're in Columbus and everything, or that was in Columbus, right?
Yeah, I was in Columbus.
Okay, yeah, you're in his home gym and he scores a takedown right away and everything. Kind of what was going through your head, and how'd you kind of get yourself right back on the horse and kind of control the rest of that match?
Mm-hmm. Whenever I got taken down, it didn't change at all my thought process or my belief that I was going to win the match. I knew I was going to win it. So him taking me down, it didn't have anything to do with changing my mentality. I just had to put points on the board, and that's what I was thinking about, because I feel like I'm the best shape wrestler in the nation, and I believe that. So I just had to keep pushing the pace. But whenever I got taken down, he got hit in the move that I was anticipating, and honestly, the first thing I thought was, that was a good shot. So, it was a good shot. So props to him. But I didn't let it get to my head. Just had to keep wrestling, keep getting back to what I'm good at, and that's what happened.
Yeah, and you mentioned your pace. That was actually going to be the next thing I was going to ask about. It looked to me like that was one of the things that really won that match for you, as well as the Pantaleo match. Is that something that in your training, everything that you really focus on, and that you think, and you and your coaching staff think that's one of the things that's going to get you to that Saturday night round at Nationals?
Oh, absolutely. And I wouldn't say that it's something that we work on. I just think it's a lifestyle. I think it's the way that I was brought up, and it transitioning into college, it plays perfectly. I've always been that way since middle school into high school and now into college. It's something that I think if young wrestlers can instill, first and foremost, I think it's a mindset, and just the mindset that no one's ever going to outwork me or outpush me. And you can see the work paying off in the middle of a match, but that's great to see the work paying off 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 months from now, and then years from now. So it's a mindset too. So yeah.
So when you're in a match, is it a conscious thing that you're trying to wear a guy out, or is it just you're so used to wrestling at that pace and you're just kind of trying to score the next point and you wear guys out as a result?
I think it's a little bit of both. It's in the back of my mind, I'm not thinking that I'm trying to get this guy tired. I'm thinking that I need to score points, but I'm also thinking that I need to keep the pace high because I know guys can't keep that pace for 7 straight minutes. And if they can, it's very difficult. Their technique's going to deteriorate. So, yeah, I am thinking a little bit about both, but the one thing that's in my head is just keep scoring points. If I'm given an opportunity to score 20 times in a match, I'm going to score the majority of those points. So the more times I put myself in a scoring position, keep that pace high, I mean, the greater my chances are at winning that match.
Absolutely. So going back a little bit, to last season, great freshman year, Pac-12 champ, 3rd at Midlands, 5th in Vegas, and all these different things. The number 9 seed at the national tournament. I know you didn't have the weekend out there that you had hoped, but what were your thoughts and feelings walking away from your freshman year? Maybe not right away. I know that feeling all too well Friday morning at nationals, but when you really had time to decompress and think about it, how do you view your freshman season?
I view it a lot as a great learning experience. That season is probably the season where I learned the most about myself, the most about my wrestling career, about who I am as a person. That last season, because there was so much adversity, it was such an up and down roller coaster. That's where I learned the most about who I was as a person, as a wrestler, what works for me, what my mentality has to be. And so last year, I thought it was a great year, even with my results at NCAA's, which was really disappointing. But, it was just a great learning experience. I walked away. I gave it everything that I had. I'm not going to put my head down from a season where I gave everything. So I thought about it pretty good. And, yeah, I liked the season I had last year. It's just so much I can learn from it and improving on it every single day.
Yeah, and I completely agree. I think you had an awesome season, and I think as difficult as it is to not define a season by that one weekend, especially when fans and people really outside of college wrestling, they tend to view your season through the scope of one weekend. But even within that weekend, it was your first time out at that tournament. You get a feel for what a different animal it is in so many different ways. In a lot of ways, it's the same type of wrestling, right? It's the same wrestling, but did you ever experience an event like that before then?
Oh, no. Pennsylvania State is a beautiful thing. It's the atmosphere is phenomenal, and you experience it a little bit, but not to the magnitude of the NCAA tournament. It's just rankings truly mean absolutely nothing. And people do not care about them one bit. And on both sides of the field, you just have to go out there, and if you step on the mat, there's just 2 wrestlers there going at it. The rankings absolutely mean nothing. It's just one guy versus another. One has to get their hand raised. But it is a beast. The atmosphere is phenomenal. It's something that I'm looking forward to for the next 3 years. I'm glad that I got that experience last year. But, yeah, it's a beast. Pennsylvania State's given me a little bit of a taste of it, and Midlands a little bit, but not to that magnitude. But now I know what to expect, so I'm pretty confident.
Yeah, and correct me if your experience was different, but the thing I found about NCAAs, especially my first trip, was it's so easy to get distracted for so many reasons. There's so much good wrestling going on around you that, we're all fans of the sport. There are matches you want to watch, even though you shouldn't, right? You got to focus on yourself, and your teammates have matches going on, and you're warming up in the tunnel, and you hear the crowd roar, and it's hard not to go out and wonder, man, what's going on?
Right.
It's so easy to get pulled in so many different directions at NCAAs, and I think that's what happens to a lot of guys, especially younger ones.
Oh, yeah. A great example of that is my teammate Josh Murica. He's been my teammate for 13 years now. But my teammate Josh Murica, it was in, I think 2 rounds before blood rounds. It was my second wrestleback match. And he was wrestling Kalika. the number 2 seed,
Mm-hmm.
and he was losing. I think it was like 4-1, something like that, with time running down. I was just keeping an eye on the TV. I wasn't even watching the actual match. It was like just an updated score, and the time was winding down. It was like 10, 9, 8. I was like, dang, Merck will get him next year. And then all of a sudden it's like 4-3, and I'm like, what the heck? And then it was like 5-4, and I'm like, what the heck just happened? And it's so hard in that moment to not want to get involved and such a great friend and a teammate like that, but you have to like worry about yourself only. And so it was just so difficult because I was like, what the heck just happened? Like I wanted to go over and like hug him and like celebrate with him, but you can't in that moment. You have to stay cool. You have to stay collective. You just have to worry about your match. So that's something that I still I'm like, what the heck happened? It was just so weird seeing those points tallied up at the end, and it was hard staying focused.
No, I'm with you, man. I had the same thing going on. My redshirt sophomore year, Darian Cruz was on the mat in the round of 12 wrestling the older Terrell brother, and they were in some 13-minute overtime disaster. And I'm, and you're back there, and like you said, you can't see the mat, which I think is something that a lot of people don't realize. When you're in the tunnel, you can't see a thing on the floor.
Oh, no, not at all.
And there weren't any points on the board, and all you can see is time shifting around, and you can hear the crowd. And at that point, it may still been Sandy Stevens, or I don't remember if it's her, Hazard, but you can hear the announcing going on. It gets stressful. Right there.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
But you mentioned Josh Maruka, and he was one of the guys that you guys are still teammates, which is an awesome thing. But you guys had a really special graduating class at Franklin Regional with yourself, Josh Maruka, Mikey Kemmerer, and Devin Brown. And, Mikey's at Iowa, Devin's at West Virginia. Do you guys stay in touch at all? If so, kind of how often? Like, what are those relationships still like?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, that right there, that's special. What we had in high school was special. Not many people get to experience that. And it's crazy because, with the exception of Devin, is that me, Josh, and Mikey have been wrestling together since we were 5 and 6 years old. And people think that with that great high school team, some kids transfer in, and Devin eventually did later on. But we were successful before anything like that ever happened. And it's like, how do you get like 3 quality wrestlers like that? And it's really just because iron sharpens iron. But it's awesome. I still stay in touch with Mikey and Devin every once in a while. It's not like it was back in high school with that relationship, but even with Mikey being in the same weight class now, it's not awkward or anything. And NCAAs, we were talking and catching up like we did in old times. So yeah, we still keep in touch all the time.
That's awesome. And I'll tell you what, I remember, when you and Mikey and I think Josh was in there here and there, but I remember, Jim Akerley calling me about, when I was, at the Equestrium. I remember asking about the younger guys, and he probably called it 5 or 6 years out of. I mean, this was before Devin moved and everything. I remember him telling me he's like, pay attention. After your class leaves, Franklin Regional is going to be really good, and it's like you said, not many people know that you guys came up together the way you did. So it's really a special thing to see stories like that.
It's cool. Merck has been my brother literally since like I was 6 years old, and I went through a period where I hated him because we used to wrestle each other all the time, and he's really good. Yeah. And so there was a time where I couldn't beat him, and it was just like, oh gosh, like am I going to be the big brother or little brother in this situation? Come on. But yeah, it's good.
At least you got the weight advantage on your side now. So you got.
Now I.
No, go ahead.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can use a little bit of weight, a little bit of strength on him, but he's still good. It's still fun.
So looking at your guys' schedule this year, you've got your next match is this Sunday. You get a revenge match with Romani, which I'm sure is one you're looking forward to from NCAAs, and you guys have Vegas and Midlands and some school by the name of Lehigh that I don't think I've ever heard of. They come to town in February. So, even before you roll into the postseason, you guys still have a lot of exciting duels. South Dakota State's in there. They're a program that's really building. What dates on your calendar? I know you got to take it one match at a time, but what matches do you think, or events, because you have Vegas and Midlands, are you personally looking forward to the most?
Oh, I'm absolutely looking forward to this Pitt match with Rahimi. It's one that I think slipped away from me at NCAA's, but he's a great wrestler. He executed his game plan perfectly, and I'm really excited to see some of those East Coast schools like Lehigh and Pitt make their way out to the West Coast, try and get wrestling to be a national sport from East to West Coast. But it's great. But no, I really am just taking it one match at a time. I don't want to get too caught up in thinking about Pac-12s or NCAAs or just focusing on one person, because then I'll become one-dimensional. I don't think my wrestling is one-dimensional, and so I'm just going to focus on the things I've been doing yesterday and executing them today. So, yeah, looking forward to the Pitt match, though.
Trust me, I've been there, and I know that feeling. One other thing I'm really curious about, we already touched on your relationship with Mikey Kemmer, but you've got Mikey and Jason Nolf, and all three of you guys, for a period of time there, spent some time in the same room, the club room at Young Guns and everything. And have you guys ever, maybe when you're all home or anything, kind of talked about the fact that it's, how cool of a thing it is that it's you three guys in the top 10 in the country from the same, that spent a lot of time in the same club room, and how wild of a story that is.
We don't talk about it so much, but we do hang out and we do scrap every time that we're home. I'm trying to get in the room with those guys, because they are the best in the nation. But it's crazy because we've been like those guys, all those guys. You put like Chenzo Joseph, Luke Pletcher, AC Headley, Josh Maruka, Spencer Lee, Devin Brown. We were all in the same room for 7+ years. And it's crazy now because it's that Young Guns room. If we all go back for Christmas break, it's the same room over and over again. But no, we don't really talk about, hey, it's cool that we're all in the top 3. It was like that since high school. But it's fun to go back in the room and wrestle with each other and see how everyone's evolving differently with different coaches now. But we don't talk about it much.
No, I think that makes sense. So, why Arizona State? That's always one of the things I'm curious about anytime a guy goes so far from home. For you and Josh Maruka both, did you guys kind of make your decisions together, or did that just kind of happen? And again, why? What about Tempe and the program, the university, kind of drew you there?
Our decisions to come to Arizona State were completely separate, which is the crazy thing. And I think it goes to show the direction of Arizona State's program and the intentions they have. It's awesome. Zeke is so good. It literally shocks me every single day what I'm learning in the room. Little things that I thought I knew, and I thought I knew about moves, and it's wait, that's why you do that? And it's just little things that Zeke and Pendleton and Pritz can do. And obviously our coaches are phenomenal. So I think the coaches are a big aspect of why I came here. I don't know if you've ever been out to Arizona, but let me see. Right now I think it's it's 70 degrees. So that beats the heck out of waking up at 5 a.m. and going out to shovel snow off your car and shovel the driveway. So you have to get your car out or turn the car on 15-20 minutes early so your hands don't freeze at the steering wheel. But no, the direction that this program is heading, especially with the coach like Jones, who has a plan, who has a future set up, I really don't see anything but greatness happening here. So that's why I decided to come.
That's awesome, man. I guess my my last question here, I don't want to take up too much of your time.
Very fun.
Is, looking at this season, I know we already talked about, going one match at a time here, but, anytime you go to train and everything, what are your goals? What can we expect to see out of you, out of the Arizona State Sun Devils the rest of the season?
What can you expect to see? I don't think you're going to see anything different from me. You're going to see the same person. Like I said, I'm the same person that I was whenever I was ranked in the right around 20 than I am now whenever I'm ranked in the top 10. Absolutely nothing is changing for me. I think that's the reason for my success. And a little bit of success that I've had is because I know and understand that as quickly as I got those wins, something can happen to where I can lose just as quickly. And so it's just an up and down sport. But one thing that's not going to change is our work ethic. One thing that's not going to change is the way that we adapt and evolve, and we want to get better. And it's a fun sport. Our coaches do a great job, and everyone on this team loves it. We have a great family. We have a great brotherhood, and that's something that we just carry with ourselves. And whenever we're wrestling, we just have a great time and have a fun time doing it. It's we want to be in the room. What you can expect from us is the same type of grit, same type of hard work, and same type of improvement. We're obviously not happy with, even though we're ranked 6th in the nation right now, I don't think that's where we're going to finish. That's not where we want to finish. So with guys like Zahid and Anthony in room, I don't think we're ever going to be content to where we are. But you'll see improvement for sure.
Well, good deal, man. Appreciate the heck out of the fact that you took the time out of your schedule to talk with us. And, obviously, huge fan of yours. Love watching you wrestle. All you guys out there at Arizona State, but especially, the two Joshes. It's always exciting to see Pennsylvania guys doing the thing at a high level. So, again, huge fan. Thank you for all that you do for the brand that is PA Power and Pennsylvania wrestling.
Oh, absolutely! Got to bring the East Coast to the West Coast, baby.
Absolutely.
Got to show some love.
All right, buddy. Well, I appreciate you taking the time. Good luck to the rest of the season, and I'm sure I'll see you or talk to you at some point along the way.
Yeah, I'll see you around. Hey, thanks for the call. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, man. Anytime you want to come on.
All right, sounds good.
All
you
right.
have a good one, man.
You too.
Bye.
Bye.
So
Mason, you got anything else for us before we get on to the weekend and get some real wrestling going and stop blabbing for these people?
No, man, I think that's it. Gonna thank Josh Shields for coming on the program. Incredible interview. Best of luck to him the rest of the season. Really, really great to see both him and Josh Maruko, the brothers Josh out there.
The brothers.
The brothers Josh out there at Arizona State.
The Sun Devil brothers Josh.
Out there, repping the PA Power brand. Great for the brand. Love it. Out there on the, not quite the West Coast, but close enough, out there in the desert. So it's awesome to see, the start he's had to the season. As always, thank you guys for tuning in, for listening. I have gotten some hilarious DMs on social media about our podcasts, whether they're suggestions, comments, anything in between. So keep those coming in all forms. And Tristan, take us out as only you can do.
As Mason said, that's going to wrap it up for us here at the PA Power College Podcast. Thanks for dialing in. I'm Tristan Warner. Find me on Twitter at WarnTriz, and you can find Mason at Beck_Diggity. Visit PAPowerWrestling.com for all your wrestling needs, and be sure to follow us on Twitter at PAPowerWrestle, and go ahead and give us a friend on Facebook. Until next time, stay classy, wrestling fans.